he has found his way out of homeopathy. So we want to figure out his story, how he got in, how he got out, and we find out exactly what homeopathy is in the process. Hey everyone, welcome to Rationable Conversations. Yes, I have changed the name and we were on a little bit of a break, but we are back with Arif Hussain Theruvath. Am I pronouncing that right or is it more Theruvath?
Yeah, Theruvath. That's the typical Malayalam accent.
I figured as much. So today we are going to be talking about homeopathy, and Dr. Theruvath actually has, or should I call you Arif?
Yeah, better to be called as Arif.
All right, Arif.
Yeah.
He has found his way out of homeopathy. So we want to figure out his story, how he got in, how he got out. I'm very sure. And we find out exactly what homeopathy is in the process. Arif, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. I've actually wanted to have you on for a long time, but things have been a little chaotic, as they usually are at Rationable. But I interviewed Dr. Abby Phillips a little over, I think it was a year and a half ago, where he blew all our minds about Ayurveda and the kind of harm that it can do if it's not regulated and if it's not taken as it should be.
Okay.
And you have tied up with him in some aspects, right?
Yeah.
So what
yeah, I work with him. Yeah, he's running a wonderful research facility at a hospital here in Kerala, Rajagiri Hospital. So I work with his team as a clinical research associate. So, and we are focusing on the damages done by all these herbal remedies and home remedies and all such proprietary Ayurvedic medicines and many things like that. And looking for this damages done to the liver and other organs and many that sort of work. Basically, it's a kind of work we look at the claims, health misinformation debunking, and all such things come into play. Yeah.
Wow. So that is very good work and it's very important work. And I wanted to, so the big thing is that you used to be a homeopathic doctor,
Yeah.
if you can call it a doctor. So tell us what happened. How did you get into that in the first place?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity because you know that it's not much talked in our country, whether there's any problem in any of these degrees that is being promoted by the Ministry of Ayush. Yes. So homeopathy is part of that Ayush, that H stands for homeopathy, and the A for Ayurveda, and multiple things like that, yoga, Unani, and all such things come in between.
And there is a silent N for naturopathy in there.
Yeah, naturopathy. Yeah. It's a yoga and naturopathy. It's together. So yeah. That's it. Yeah. So when it comes to homeopathy, you were asking that even that was a jibe at me that whether it could be called as a doctor. Yeah, of course, that can be called as a doctor because that's how it is getting promoted in our country. Because for a student who is just coming out of the schools after the +2, looking for the NEET examinations, a group of options, a choice is given to him to go for multiple courses. So he can go for course A, course B, course C, any courses. There are multiple courses. And within this NEET examination, it is even considered for these Ayush degrees as well. So we cannot call by standing on the part of the students that is something fake or something unscientific, just because for them, it is something that is being provided by the governments or the policy makers in our country. So it's not upon their part to make it clear whether this is something scientific or unscientific. We cannot blame them for that because it's for their livelihood. They are going for a course and later on getting up with some jobs and survival. That's the main point of doing all these courses. But after getting enrolled for any of these courses, then only you will come across to the problems faced by all these. So that's the exact story that even I was facing. After joining the first BHMS, then only I started getting to know there is something wrong with this course. There is some problem with this homeopathy. And none of the teachers or the other people associated with our college, they were not able to tell me exactly what exactly is the problem. So that was a very difficult situation. So to be called as a doctor or not, from the point of view of these students, they can be called because it's part of the education system, and that's how it is being promoted. But as a science promoter, or as a person who looks at healthcare in a way that it should be evidence based and it should be scientific and all such sort of things, then it comes the problem whether it is a genuine medical profession, whether it is scientifically backed, and if a person practices it, whether he can be called as a doctor. Then we could say that no, you cannot be called as a doctor. But still, for me, people still call me doctor. So I cannot stop them, because for them, they have seen me as a doctor for all these years, so they still call me. So it's very difficult to delineate between whether it is a true practice or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
unprofessional.
Dr. Shantanu Abhyankar was
Yeah.
one of the very first people I interviewed, because to be honest, he's one of the first Indian skeptics that I actually
Okay.
learned about, because we met in Las Vegas in SciCon, where he was presenting one of the Sunday papers about Society for Removing Blind Faith and Blind Superstition, which he is a part of. I'm probably getting the whole thing a little wrong. But anyway, Dr. Shantanu Abhyankar has done a lot of work in promoting mainstream medicine, and his story as well. He was telling me that a lot of homeopathy and Ayurveda, etc., is actually positioned like a back door into the medical profession, because you still get to learn certain standards of care, you still get to learn certain medical practices, but the actual medicine part of it that you are taught is, of course, fallacious. But at least that gets you in the door of the mainstream medical profession, where you'll be able to work in a hospital, maybe as an assistant doctor, maybe as a more junior staff. And he said that's just what I was going for at that point of time. I didn't have high enough scores to get into a proper big medical school, and those cost a lot of money as well, which is another big problem in this country. But he said this is the way everybody gets into the medical profession if they don't have the other resources or the marks to get into a college. So I was like, that totally blew my mind. I had no idea that was the case. But was this also the case with you, that you were trying to get into the mainstream medicine, but were trying to get into it from a different angle? Or
yes, yeah, there's a huge difference from what this Dr. Shantanu and that I have faced, because coming from a state like Kerala, the situation is entirely different. We don't have such a back entry option in Kerala. You cannot practice any of those modern medicine. Even a single drug could be prescribed by a homeopath in Kerala. So if you take 100 homeopaths here in Kerala, 100 of them will be practicing homeopathy alone. That's the situation here. So here it is a pure alternative science, alternative medicine. Here it is just like that. It's not a backdoor entry, or it's something similar to what he has told. The situation is different. And even you can see that there's an authorized course for these BHMS graduates in Maharashtra and the course name is Certificate in Modern Pharmacology. So after you get trained in that course, you can even work in modern medicine hospitals. That's not possible in our state. So for me, from being from this Kerala state, that was not the option, or that was not the situation that was faced at that time. Our problem, or my problem, was entirely about science, entirely about the theory. And not about the professional problems faced by being a homeopath, earning less, or that was not the issue. It was all about the worth that was put forward by being a homeopath. And as you said, we are portrayed as doctors here, real doctors, okay, but we are not given the proper ammunition, the weapons. So you are led to treat viral fevers or some dangerous diseases like even cancers, but you are not supposed to give even a paracetamol. So we feel unarmed at times, being genuine homeopathic doctors, that we even ask ourselves that what is the use in learning all this? Because if you know how to diagnose, you know how to spot a problem, you know what should be given in a disease condition, but you are not supposed to give. So what is the use of learning that? So you are sent to a war field without any ammunition. You are just standing there barehanded. So that's the situation that we were facing. And it is not working. The arms that you were carrying were the arms from the prehistorical time. It was not working anymore because they are firing at us. The virus is firing with AK-47, and you are standing with bow and arrow, 200-year-old, this kind of weapons. And
Even bow and
even
arrows were quite effective in that
yeah,
time.
but it's less effective when the enemy is firing with AK-47. Then
And you're
it's
standing
a
with a cup of
problem.
water, basically.
Yeah, yeah. For a homeopath, it's just a cup of water. So that was the situation. We felt powerless. We felt ammunitionless. Okay, so that was a very difficult time to cope up with these conditions. But for those doctors who are not able to understand the diagnosis, or who are not able to make a proper prognosis of a disease condition, they are safe. They can give any water preparation, because for them, that in Malayalam, we used to say that if you know the weak points of a person, you won't be able to beat that person. It's just like that. Okay. Because
Yeah.
anywhere you try to beat them, you'll find a weak spot. Okay. It's a very vulnerable point for that body. So you won't beat the. So that's you. If karate, you won't beat a person, because for them, you will be seeing the vulnerable spots everywhere. But if you don't know that, you can beat anywhere. You can beat on the ears. You can beat on the stomach. You can beat on. You can kick even on your balls. So that's how it is done. So
Yeah.
the problem is knowing things. If you come to know about this, you won't be able to stand inside. That's it. Yeah.
So so when you got in, and I mean, or did you have any prior scientific training in any form to be able to discern fact or fiction, or trying to see that there was a problem somewhere? Or what is the
I do,
process that you went through?
I don't think that question is a right question, because would you ask the same question to an ISRO scientist who is placing this lemon under that a rocket, because he is trained in science. Okay,
Yeah.
who in this country who has completed his elementary school is not trained in science? Every single child who has gone to a school is trained in science. So my point is, it's not about the training in science. It is about the scientific temper that we carry with us, or we nurture. So you can study science up to PhD or postdoc, any levels, but if you don't have that scientific temper in you, you will be carrying the lemon and this green chili with you to place under the rocket that is about to start and fly and reach this Mars. So it's all about scientific temper. So I was taught the science subjects just like every other children in this country or in this world. I was taught those science subjects like biology, all these physics and chemistry and all other subjects. But apart from that, this logic, depending upon the logic, reason, and scientific temper, that was also quite important. I don't know whether I was trained in scientific temper, but maybe during my school time and all, I used to participate in multiple science events and science fairs and all such things. So as a extracurricular activity, I was part of science as well. It means a little bit above the school syllabus. Maybe that could be the reason why I was able to grasp the main aspects of science and scientific temper without knowing that it was scientific temper. Maybe that's it. But later on, after, with the help of all this internet and all such talks, even I have watched Dr. Chandanu and all, even before leaving homeopathy. No, I watched Chandanu after leaving homeopathy only. But there were many other people like Edzard Ernst from Germany. I was following most of his blog posts over there, and that was possible only because of internet. So I would say that what helped me to realize all these things and to come out of this is internet. The information that was available to me through this internet. I think that was the single reason. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's not something that I had, especially in my younger childhood, because I was born in 1980, and things have, at that point of time, I had no idea. So and I did like science, but for most of my childhood, I was fed homeopathic medicines as the product of not just an Indian child, but as a child from a partially Bengali family.
Oh.
So the Bengalis especially are extremely attached to homeopathy in a very hardcore way.
True.
So walk us through the process of, what were the things that you learned and how you figured out things along the way. And what was that moment when it snapped and you're like,
okay,
I can't do this anymore?
Great. Yeah, that's a very important question, because when I told about the choice that was laid before me after completing this examination, this entrance examination. Before it was named as NEET, it was just entrance exam. So at that time, options were laid before me: MBBS, BDS, then BAMS, BHMS, and all such degrees. So for me, it was just course degrees. Okay. Why? Because I was familiar to all these things. So I would use this word familiarity. That is the main thing which makes us believe to many of these unwanted and outdated and unscientific practices in our world. So this familiarity is the key aspect that I would say. So who made it familiar to me? It was my parents, because when I was ill during my childhood, my mother will come with a glass of water, adding a few drops of Nexvomica or belladonna. These are the homeopathic remedies. She will add to that and she'll be giving to us. So I'll just take it. I'll get rid of my fever or maybe my tummy pain. So I think that, okay, this is working. This is a medicine. I'm not,
We all did.
yeah, I'm not thinking about whether it is working or not, but my problem is over. It is gone. So for me, that is something, a conclusive outcome that it is working. Okay. And even when I'm not bothered about whether it is working or not, or whether it is scientific or unscientific, even mother used to pray for me. Even our elders will pray for us. Okay, your problem will be gone. I have prayed to the God. So, okay, we are familiar to such things. So once we come out of the school and we see all these degrees, we don't feel a strangeness in any of this, because we have seen this from our early childhood itself. These were there with us. So the familiarity is the key factor which led me into this course, which made me select this course. But once I reached the college, this familiarity was replaced, or it was pushed away by a key aspect called scientific temper, because we started realizing that it's not just familiarity that you should look for. You should look for evidence. You should look for scientific backing, scientific reason, and then only that aspect that you are carrying forward should be used as a medicine, especially when it comes to medicine. There should be evidence. So you talk about evidence medicine at point of time, and when it comes to homeopathy, you talk about experience, or what do you say, the anecdotes, the testimonials. So I was able to get a contrast between evidence-based medicine and testimonials-based medicine. So most of the time in a homeopathic setting or in an alternative medicine setting, what you can see that evidence means, in simple terms for this alternative system practitioners, it is just before after picture. You will take a picture before treatment, you'll take a picture after the treatment. That's it. That is the evidence that they know top to bottom, nothing other than that. But we know, as part of evidence-based medicine, that there is a quality of evidence pyramid, we always say about that. So in that, this before after picture, the case reports, the case series, all these comes as the low quality evidence, or it is at the bottom of the pyramid. But you have to go forward, you have to go up. And when you reach at randomized controlled trial, it is getting some kind of added value to that. The quality is increasing. And even above that, you do this meta-analysis, just systematic reviews and all. So that's how you look for evidence. It's not just the before after picture that is leading the healthcare. If that was the case, even you will have to agree that prayers work wonders. So that's not what we see today. Okay.
Exactly. Because but that doesn't, I mean, there have been people who have tried to prove that homeopathy works in some way, shape, or form, which is what a lot of people have tried to add that to their ammunition when talking about the lack of evidence against homeopathy. There was this, I'm forgetting the gentleman, he has a French name.
Benveniste.
Sorry?
Benveniste.
Yes, Benveniste.
Yeah.
So his team, they did
water
that.
Memory.
Yeah, the water memory. They put, I think it was some immune cells with pathogen, and then removed it and put the water in there.
Yeah.
And it so seemed that the immune cells were still reacting to the same pathogen.
Yeah.
And they published in Nature, was it? I think it was in Nature that they published.
Yeah, it was in Nature, I think. I remember so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then James Randi was brought on board by Nature. So James Randi, for anyone who doesn't know, he was a magician, and he made it his life's work to debunk, or rather not debunk, but test claims made by people and just re-examine those claims in a more controlled setting. So, for example, he's done this for water divining, where he's actually constructed an entire experiment where he's had pipes under the underground. This was done in Australia and televised. He had pipes underground. Some of those pipes had water, some of them didn't, and he got the country's best water diviners, at least the ones who responded to their advertisement, and checked how capable they were. And they were just capable 50% of the time. So just an example of what James Randi has been doing. So they got him on board, and he redid all the tests, and he found that it wasn't as double-blinded as people thought.
Yeah.
So that one was thrown out the window. And then there's a Japanese gentleman also did these experiments, so to speak, on how water reacts to how you speak to it. And so he took different samples of water. What was his name again?
Japanese, that I don't remember.
Yeah. I'll just look it up. This is something that people have definitely cited.
Yeah, most of the time homeopathy and homeopathy related studies come from Europe. So Luke Mondena, Benveniste, all such people. And even we have from India, like the Chakramane, that IIT Mumbai, IIT Bombay team. Yeah. So they, even after failing with this water memory, they come up with, they were introducing this nanotechnology. So they were claiming, with this homeopathy is full of nanoparticles. So it's the nanoparticles that is working. So for that, they had multiple studies to showcase for that. But even that was debunked by a Belgium team, again, from another European country. So it was debunked, thoroughly debunked by this Belgium team. They couldn't reproduce the results that was put forward by this Mumbai team. So that's how it was dealt with. Staunch criticism and thorough reproduction of these experiments in a controlled setting. They were miserably failing. So that was, yeah.
I like this guy, Masaru Emoto. He's the gentleman who did these tests, where he took these little samples of water, and for some of them, he shouted at them and swore at them all day, which must have been very cathartic. And for the other, he spoke to them very gently and softly. I wonder what his family had to say about those experiments. But anyway, but he genuinely tried to express some sort of emotion to these different batches of water. And then he found, so to speak, that the ones, when they were frozen, the ones that he was angry at formed ugly ice crystals, and the ones he was loving to formed beautiful ice crystals. And therefore, he published his findings, which were never replicated after that. And a lot of people have found that his water samples weren't all distilled water. We do not know if they had any impurities in it. We do not know if they were any isolated. We don't know if there was a control sample, as far as I remember, where he didn't say anything at all and he just let them be. And we don't know at how quickly or slowly those ice crystals were formed. I mean, how quickly or slowly he cooled them so that these ice crystals could form. So since we don't know any of these things, and ice crystals form in many different ways, which is why snowflakes are all different. But people still believe that this was a valid experiment where water not only has memory, it has a consciousness.
Yeah, emotions.
Yeah. Don't drink it.
Yeah. Even this is exactly something like our fingerprints. Like, it is so unique. It said that you cannot recreate a single crystal, ice crystal formed out of this water, falling water.
Yeah.
Because every crystal is unique. That's what is believed. Or what is,
and the ideas of ugliness and beauty are so subjective.
Yeah, it is totally dependent upon the ambient temperature and all such conditions.
Exactly.
So with even a minute change in that falling space, that in that atmosphere, the crystal will be different. So that's how it is getting different and different. It is unique in such a manner. And citing that as a reason to showcase homeopathy and how it is functioning or it is working, That itself shows how desperate these homeopaths are to show that it is a real science. So they go to any extent to showcase this. And even we have some other things like digital biology. That was something related to this Benveniste's this discovery of water memory. So
He wanted to come out with some sort of a product.
yeah, this is called digital biology, they called. So they was thinking that these medicines could be, if they are having, these medicines are having memory, they were thinking that, okay, then we can write something onto that water, just like writing a CD or on a pen drive. So, and the most funniest part is that even just by seeing that this could be done, just with a statement that was made by Benveniste, homeopaths started making products, and we had this digital medicines in homeopathy, MP3 medicine. So I don't know whether, yeah, MP3 medicines. So I don't know whether you are aware of that. So if you get a condition, for example, whether it be a cancer of your testicles or of your
Why not?
So in that case, homeopaths will come up with a medicine. Okay, for example, arsenicum album. You know that the most famous medicine.
Yeah, for COVID-19.
Yeah, so you must realize that homeopaths or these homeopathic medicines do have consciousness. Like the medicine, after coming inside your body, the medicine will come to know that, okay, I am inside a body now. My duty is not to boost the immunity. My duty is to cure the cancer of the testicles. So I have to march towards the testicles. That's how you just imagine the lot of works arsenicum album or any homeopathic medicine have to do. So instead of this ingestion of medicine, what is done by these digital biologists is that they will record the name arsenicum album 30C, just like recording that Om, that during that yoga classes you might have seen that. Yeah, so they will just record that arsenicum album 30C, like that. They will just record it, and even they will mention the symptomatology of that arsenicum album into that MP3 file, and that will be switched on over the iPad or over your MP3 player, or even your home theater will do. And then the person will
smaller the better.
Yeah, smaller. And yeah, and people prescribe this. Homeopathic doctors prescribe it. Not in India mostly, but it's mostly done in the West by these people there. So they just prescribe MP3 formats of medicines, and that will be plugged into their ears, and they are given the hope that this will cure their cancer or their any other problem. And just imagine how the people are believing all these kind of BS. So so this is something crucial. And when this comes into a discussion point of view among the homeopaths, they will group into two. And some people will say that this is unscientific. There is no proof for that. But other people will say that this is scientific. That's how the hair transmission works in India. Do you know that, hair transmission?
I know hair transplanting.
Okay, this is something called hair transmission. Like even here, just like digital biology, is something similar to that, but in a different manner. Here we use the technology called Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay, so the person with this testicle cancer, he will be coming to us. So the doctor, after thoroughly analyzing all his conditions, reading all these reports, after finding the remedy, before letting go the patient, he will pluck a few hair strands from his head, and he will place that hair strand in a test tube in a bottle named, okay, this person. And he takes the medicine and he will put the hair strand in that medicine. So it is said that this medicine, which is in which this hair strand is dipped in, that will be transformed to the patient wherever he is sitting, even in the moon or in the Mars. That medicine and the power of medicine, the curative power, will be reaching that person. That is how this hair transmission works. And you know that there are hundreds and hundreds of testimonials and case reports citing the effectiveness of this treatment. This is happening in India.
Yes. Let me see if I can guess this. Do any of them claim that the way this works is quantum physics?
Of course, they claim, because that's that's a common fallacy all these people carry. That is, when they are short of answers or short of explanations to what they are doing, they come up with this quantum physics fallacy that, okay, you won't understand this because this is quantum physics. So that's
Anything
how
that you
it is.
add quantum
Yeah,
physics to suddenly becomes legit.
yeah, that's it.
It's
So
really
yeah, we have that fallacy itself, and I think that's most used by these homeopaths and all other pseudoscience peddlers like
oh,
quantum science
absolutely.
physics. Yeah.
So was there, so like I'd asked before, was there a moment when you realized what you were learning was not
Yeah.
valid, that you needed to get out?
Yeah, that's what I was telling, because after seeing all these things, okay,
Was there a definitive moment or this happened gradually over a period of time?
there was a moment, in fact. Yeah, that moment, it was triggered by an event in the history of homeopathy. That was the Lancet paper, the end of homeopathy report that came in 2005.
Oh,
So at that time, I was in my second year of BHMS, and we were all discussing this paper as some work of the drug mafia, this big pharma. So they were trying to kill homeopathy. So that's how we always say that. That's the biggest conspiracy. But homeopathy was something, a very big threat to this modern medicine. So they wanted to destroy the industry of homeopathy. So that's why they came up with this paper called The End of Homeopathy. That's how we were told. But and for that day, we had a meeting with all the students in our college, and we invited certain people from all over our state who were well-known practitioners, and they were all presenting testimonials, case reports, and all such things. And they were keep on telling us, this is evidence-based. What more evidence do you want? This is evidence. Show, see this, like this. So they were coming up with pictures. They were coming with their own case, that record sheets from their clinics. And that's how they were presenting it. So at that time, we were all just newcomers into this course, and we were just thinking, okay, this might be the way to prove that something is legit. But after seeing how this evidence-based medicine work, then came that moment that you were asking. There is something wrong in this. That is, this is not the way to present evidence. This is something exactly done by all these faith healers. So what is the difference between a faith healer and a homeopathy doctor if both of them are bringing up testimonials? So that is not the right way. There is something else. And from that moment onwards, the journey started. Like, this is evidence-based medicine is not this. It is something else. And there are multiple ways to arrive at proper scientific information. And that was the way by which I was led afterwards. And then came another moment where, because this is a profession, we all do this for living. And I had to come out of this. And that was not easy, because even if you try to come out of this, your patients won't.
yeah.
They won't let you go out. Even I get calls even now for appointments by finding my number online. Yeah, so that's the...
If you ever wanted to fall back on something,
Yeah, so
that
they
opportunity.
always pull us back. I think my patients were one of the reasons why I had to linger on to homeopathy for at least 3-4 years more, because I wanted to... It was not easy for me, because just imagine, I was giving them something as a medicine, saying that it is true, and from the next day onwards, if I say to them that this is not true, they can sue me. So anything can happen to my professional life. So I was truly worried about that. So I wanted to end this somehow, but I was not getting a clear-cut plan how to end this. So what I did was, I just left my place and I went to Bangalore and stayed there for almost a year. So whenever the patients call, I would say that, okay, I'm not here, I'm in a course. I was doing a course. For that purpose only I went there. I got some exposure to the science and scientific method from IAC Bangalore there. So I had a professor there who was helping me with all these things. So I got a very good exposure from that place. And for that, I left this place for 1 year, and I used that time for getting detached from the patients. Like, I used to get these calls. I would say that, no, I'm not here, I'm not practicing, I joined a course, I won't be here. And it took almost 1-2 years to completely stop that. So that's how it ended.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what was your next step after that? What did you consider you would do after that as a career?
Yeah, that was very much difficult for me, because during the time that I completed my course, BHMS was not accepted as a basic degree course for many other higher education courses. Like, I was looking for some master in public health. and I applied for courses in India, and that was not considered as a basic degree for that course at that time. But now it is seen as something accepted. So that's a good change now. So I didn't want to do some other random course and go with that. So I was specifically looking for some courses like public health or something like related to research field and all. So that was not possible. So, and there are multiple other reasons in between, like personal issues as well. So I couldn't go for another education. So I decided to go with some business, and I started a small business here. I started with that, but the COVID time, it was affected heavily and I had to close it down. And now after that, I happened to be in communication with Dr. Happy, and I came into his facility, and now I started my work there as a clinical researcher. And now I am doing some courses over that, because as part of the clinical, that occupation skill upgradation, so I'm doing some of the courses, medical ethics, clinical research ethics and all. So that's another big field. The clinical research is an ocean. You have immense opportunity there. So if any of these homeopathic doctors who are willing to come out of this, the best field would be clinical research itself, because there are multiple companies giving this training and they even have good opportunities there. So that's a bonus tip here.
Oh, wonderful. So if you have any homeopaths who are listening to this or watching this, you definitely you should get in touch with Arif, because you have a way out if you want that. But I just wanted to there are a couple of other things that I want to address. If you, by any chance, if you're running out of time or anything, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. We can go for another 15 minutes.
All right, perfect. Yeah. So for everyone here who isn't sure exactly what homeopathy is, could you give us an idea of how it came into being, how it's processed, what are the fundamentals of homeopathy, and how it is claimed to work?
Okay. I don't think this question is not addressed anywhere, because this is a well-addressed problem, addressed issue. But the one key aspect that I have seen missing in all those explanations is that a historical relevance of homeopathy. We have to understand that, because we are not criticizing homeopathy because it's not working. That's not just the reason. Homeopathy was gaining popularity, or it was discovered at a time when there was no proper medicinal treatments available. That's one point. The second point is that the kind of treatments available were called as allopathy, as named by homeopathy, the founder, that is Hahnemann. So he coined this term, allopathy. So why did he call that allopathy? Because the treatments available during the time of discovery of homeopathy, that is in 1800s, is bloodletting, biting you with leeches, bleeding, vomiting, making you vomit, then inducing diarrhea, all such cruel practices, with the hope that will bring some goodness. And that was linked to the outdated ideas of four humors of Hippocrates, where your disease is linked to these four humors, blood, bile, and all such things. And we have certain similar things in Ayurveda as well, like the Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and all. So this was something, a prehistorical understanding of healthcare. So during the time of homeopathy in 1800s, the belief was that diseases were caused by the problems in your vital force. So vital force is a prehistorical idea of this disease origin, where people attribute the causes of diseases to some bad air or something dynamic or immaterial, we call it. So Hahnemann believed that. And that was not discovered by Hahnemann. It was the common understanding of diseases origin during his time. So the cause of disease is immaterial. It is from somewhere around. There is no concept of germs, bacteria, virus. So you must imagine homeopathy was introduced at a time where we even didn't have a light bulb as we use it today. So that was the time when Hahnemann was writing all these books, sitting under the candle lights. And that's the situation of his time. So from there, you can imagine how the medicine should be designed to treat something that is immaterial. So Hahnemann believed that the medicine also should be immaterial. The medicinal power also should be immaterial. And he called it medicinal power. So in this century today, when we say force or when we say power, all these are terms associated with physics, and we have equations related to that. But when we say power, or when you say this energy, or all these terms related to any of these alternative system, it is not these terms as we use in physics or in other scientific field. It is just a kind of divinity that is being getting attached to that, something immaterial. Something like you can call the power of Superman or the power of Spider-Man, just like that. It's a power, the ability. That's it. So Hahnemann believed that the medicinal property or the crude drug substance, it has the medicinal property, but to fight the immaterial thing, you need to separate the medicinal power from the material substance. Okay.
Interesting. This I did not know. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So for that, he started using this rubbing, the shaking, and all such diluting and all such methods. So that was related to dynamism, we call it. That is the term that was existing. Dynamism, we call it. So with all this shaking, violent shaking, and this jamming this bottle onto the table and all such things, by the ultimate outcome is that the drug energy or the drug power, that spirit, you can if you closely listen to the homeopathic bottle, you will get to listen to a sound kind like that. That's a sound of a spirit.
That's they claim that homeopathic medicines make a sound. I'm genuinely asking. I'm like, do they actually believe that?
No, that's the kind of visualization that you can get.
I just wanted to clarify, because anyways, homeopathy is so far removed from reality that I just wanted to make sure if you were joking or if you were being serious.
Yeah, if you listen to the material drug, you won't hear anything. But if you shake it well and you listen to that, you will hear like that sound.
Okay.
So that's the sound of the spirit, because that is getting separated. And now what happens is that you give this medicine, the spirit is traveling. Okay, that sparky light that you can imagine with all those graphics, visualizations.
Anybody who's watched Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight. knows so this spirit travels into the body, and it corrects the problems caused inside the body, and it corrects the vital force, and it places that vital force in place. And that's how you get out of this disease. This is how homeopathy is in simple terms. This is homeopathy.
Wow.
But today,
so the whole like cures like is basically is that if you take the toxins out of the material substance, they turn into the spiritual medicine that will cure the same symptoms. Yeah,
that's it. So that is, and this dynamism and this treatment methodology related to that was common to multiple other treatment methodologies. So Hahnemann borrowed this idea into homeopathy, and he clubbed it with this similia similibus, that is like cures like. So he was getting this idea of like cures like from another textbook, from Cullen's Materia Medica, where he was translating parts of that book, and he was translating a sentence there where it was stating that the property of the Singona bark extract in curing malaria-like fevers is because of its bitterness or its astringent property. That's what it is written there. So Hahnemann was just thinking about it. And we must agree that Hahnemann was so inquisitive. He was a true scientist of his times. Forget about the historical limitations of those times. But he was a truly inquisitive, and he wanted to test it out. So what he did was he took the Singona bark extract and he took it in himself. And he could experience some of the symptoms, and unfortunately that was Singona poisoning. We call it Singonism. But Hahnemann thought or misinterpreted that, or he made a wrong observation that it is because of these symptoms that he got in after getting poisoned with Singona bark, that these symptoms, if occurring in a person as part of a disease, it is curing it. I think you got it.
Yeah, I get that. This is basically what the precursor to what is it? The malaria disease, right?
Malaria disease. Yeah. Intermittent fevers.
Hydrochloroquine.
Hydrochloroquine.
Now known as hydrochloroquine.
HCQ, yeah. So it's Syncona. The quinone alkaloids are being separated from that, and hydrochloroquinone and all such drugs are used today for treating multiple diseases. It's a precursor for that. But our point is that Hahnemann came to this conclusion based on this wrong observation about his synchronism or the cinchona poisoning that he experienced. And now he clubbed this experience with this dynamism theory, where it was already existing. That is the miasma theory and the immaterial forces acting in a same plane. So after giving this crude substance to treat these diseases caused by these errors in dynamic derangements or this vital force, he thought that there were some of these poisoning episodes happening or repeatedly occurring. So he wanted to limit these poisoning events or aggravations, medicinal aggravation he called. So he wanted to dilute it again. So at the time when homeopathy was discovered, it was not diluted. During the early years of homeopathic medicines that was prescribed by homeopathic, that inventor of homeopathy or discoverer of homeopathy, that was not diluted. So the idea of diluting came later.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. So the earlier part of homeopathy is completely based on mother tinctures or the mother substance, the crude substance.
Yikes. That
so
is
then, yeah. So then comes
people
the
are
question.
actually getting arsenic.
Yeah. So then comes the question. Why dilute it?
It's a good question.
Yeah. So that we have the answer written in the literature of homeopathy itself. That is, we need to dilute it to limit the medicinal aggravation.
Okay. So your body's reaction to the actual poison that you're giving it.
Yeah. So you are actually minimizing the dose. So that was the first reason for minimizing or making this dilution. And the second reason is to separate this medicinal energy from the crude substance. So Hahnemann saw a change in those patients by giving all these medicines, and he attributed to the medicinal energy present in this crude substance. And in crude substance, the medicinal energy is too strong that the patient can even get some aggravation. So he wanted to dilute it. So why he made all these observations is because the idea of biochemistry and chemistry as a whole was so limited during those times. So he was not having an idea of how this dose functions. Okay, so but instead of giving a proper answer, he just made a jugat explanation out of this. And that's how he came up with this dynamism principle. And he wanted to explain why he wanted to dilute and attributed it to this dynamism. That is, to fight this dynamic energy derangement, you need to empower or you need to separate this medicinal energy from the original drug. So that's how he came up with this idea of dilution. And from then on, Hahnemann, he left using all these mother substances and he always advocated for these dilutions. And there's one another aspect there. Hahnemann never ever asked to dilute above 30C.
Oh.
Okay. So the high dilutions that we talk about, that like the 200C or 1000C, 10,000C, or those all high dilutions came after Hahnemann by some other people like Dr. Kent. So Kent was another person, James Taylor Kent. He was an American. And yeah, he was a Christian priest by profession, but he came into homeopathy. And since there was some elements of spirituality and all these kind of dynamic immaterial things in homeopathy, being a Christian priest, he could relate this more with the theological part. So what he did was that he extrapolated all these theoretical part present in homeopathy to these theological aspects. So he gave the idea of high dilutions. He gave the idea of some other miasms, even mother of all miasms. He termed it as the sora. In homeopathy, we have 3 miasms: sora, psychosis, and syphilis. So for Hahnemann, it was just a sequelae of some of the skin diseases that he called as sora, sequelae to gonorrhea, that sexually transmitted disease. He called it as the psychosis, and some other diseases like syphilis, and the sequelae to that was called as syphilis. This was the idea of Hahnemann. But for Ken, it was like the original sin. That was the reason for sora.
Whoa, cats. Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So he attributed or he extrapolated that idea from Hahnemann to Adam and Eve. So that's how it went. And now homeopathy and the practice of homeopathy, the profession is totally hopeless, that people have attributed multiple other things, like you can see the digital biology, the modern forms of this spirituality, and many other nonsense being a part of this homeopathy, even Reiki practice, yeah, and mesmerism. Even Hahnemann, at the end of writing this book, he even talks about mesmerism. That is animal magnetism.
Oh, animal magnetism.
Yeah. So why? Because that was one another point of my transition, where I had to relook onto all this literature work, because I was thinking, if homeopathy was working, and if homeopathy is really effective, then why would Hahnemann write about animal magnetism, mesmerism, and all these things in his book? So even being the founder of homeopathy himself, he was not able to completely make use of this homeopathy. So there should be something wrong, really wrong with this. So that means it is just like a chance that cures happen. So those things the skeptics are saying about homeopathy must be true. That's what I understood at the end, and that led me into inquiring more about this homeopathy and what is wrong with homeopathy and what the skeptics have to say. And I read multiple papers by this Edzard Ernst and many other people. And one of the main papers that was mentioned by Edzard Ernst is the replication of the Cinchona bark experiment. So multiple people tried to reproduce this Cinchona bark experiment, and they were not able to do that. Yeah. So from that itself clearly says, or clearly proves, that homeopathy, the observation made by Hahnemann, that was wrong. It was just a poisoning attempt made by him. And even in our homeopathic OPDs, even in our college, we used to prescribe Cinchona, this China, we call it China, or Cinchona mother tincture. We used to think, why, if Hahnemann got all these symptoms after taking Cinchona, why even after we give all these Cinchona mother tincture to the patients, why they are not coming with the same kind of symptoms? So these are some of the questions, pressing questions, that came to me and helped me move out. Yeah.
Wow. And you came off, so first of all, 20C. What exactly does 20C mean?
30C. 30C or
30C. 30C.
Yeah.
Which is?
Yeah, that is the scale of dilution, we call it. That is the C, centesimal scale. So we have mostly 3 scales of dilutions. One is the decimal scale. So decimal scale means you take the mother substance or the mother solution, and you take 1 part of the solution and you add 9 parts of the vehicle, maybe alcohol or mixture of alcohol and water or simple water. And you add that and you shake it. So that is 1x. So the decimal potency or the decimal scale is denoted by the letter X. Okay, so that is 1x. And now you take 1 part of this 1x and you add another 9 part of this vehicle, that is alcohol or water, and you mix it, you get the 2x. Okay, so instead of this 9 part, if you are adding 99 parts of vehicle, it is the centesimal scale, or 1/100th we call. Okay, so
1C.
1C. So instead of 1x, if you add 99 parts of the vehicle, it becomes 1C. So you take 1 part of 1C, you add 99 parts of the vehicle, it becomes 2C. So likewise, it is serially diluted and you reach 20C. That is, you take 1 part from the 19C and add 99 parts of the vehicle and you shake it well, it becomes 20C or 30C, like that.
So, and I think Richard Dawkins was one who said that to find one molecule in the final solution of, what is it, 20 or 30C, like arsenic amalgam.
Yeah, the whole universe filled with water.
No, the entire, a globe of water, the size of the entire solar system.
Yeah.
Find one molecule.
Yeah, that's
the likelihood of finding one molecule in there.
Yeah, people, when we say this, the people will misunderstand that, because they will think that, okay, this medicine is made by taking that much water and adding the medicine to that. That's not how it is done.
Yeah.
It's serially diluted. So the dilution factor is increasing step by step.
Exactly.
So it is a part of mathematical calculation that we see, that if you take 1C, it is 10 raised to 2. It is 1/100th. Okay. If you take 200C, 2C, it is 10 raised to 4. Okay, so like that, if you add 2 zeros or 100 in every step, if you take 30C, it will be the magnitude you can imagine, how many zeros will be there
Yeah,
above the system. So that is a mathematical calculation that is being done there.
I see.
So yeah, so in that case, we have to mention about this Avogadro limit as well, because at one point, the actual crude substance that will cease to exist after a point of time, and that point is called as the Avogadro limit. That is at least one molecule of that substance that can be seen. And that is the 6.02 into 10 raised to 23. That's the number we usually say. So the Avogadro limit for homeopathic medicines is, for the 10C, the decimal scale, it is around 23C. Okay. And for centesimal scale, it is around 12C. So after 12C, it is, the chance is zero that you will find that at least one molecule is present in it.
Oh, wow.
After 12C. And
So
there is a, and there's a third scale of potency.
6.02 into 10 to the power of 23 is Avogadro's limit.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So that's the dilution factor, where after diluting up to that limit only, you will find at least one molecule. So after 12C, you take 13C, the chances are zero. That's how it is. Then we'll get an understanding why we mention about this Avogadro limit or Avogadro's number.
So what are the other scales that you were going to mention?
The last scale is the 50 millisimal scale. So that means the first one is 1 by 10. The second is 1 by 100. The third one is 1 by 500. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't think that needs an elaboration.
Yeah, that's true. But you had recently appeared on an interview on TV with Dr. Phillips, talking about people who are giving mother tinctures instead of these dilutions. And because this is not really regulated, what has happened there? What exactly, how did you find that out?
Yeah, I told you, I mentioned you earlier that the initial days of homeopathy is full of mother tinctures, even starting from the cinchona bark experiment. And I did it with mother tincture.
Yeah, but now in India.
Yeah, so it is true that if you give mother tinctures to some of the disease conditions, there will be some sort of actions, because that is containing some physiologically capable molecules in it. So that will obviously get some effect. I'm not saying the right effect or the true effect. I'm telling you some effect. But that doesn't mean that it should be given or it should be scientific. Because when we say that it is scientific, or when we say that it is part of science, we have to look into many other things like the risk versus the benefit.
Of course.
Then only we decide upon a medicine. We have multiple drugs in modern medicine which is having very much good benefits, but the risks, that is even more higher, and that's the only reason why we are not giving. And the best example for that is the arsenic trioxide, which is given as the last resort medicine for this leukemia conditions, because modern medicine know very well that it is effective in treating that as a chemotherapy drug. But if you give it, it is going to damage your kidneys. Multiple other organ failures will happen. When a situation comes where you have to live or to die, then only we use those medicines as a salvage therapy, we call it. And now you imagine coming to homeopathy. You take this arsenic trioxide and you label it homeopathic medicine. Then you are able to give that medicine deliberately without even having an iota of consideration or concern about these adverse events. For example, we have ars bromide, another drug which is being prescribed in the form of mother tincture form for treating diabetes. Just imagine giving ars bromide for treating diabetes.
So is that an arsenic bromide kind of?
Yeah,
is that
arsenic bromide. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is a drug mentioned in the homeopathic materia medica. You can give it in the form of low potencies, mother tinctures. People used to prescribe it here. Even I have seen some of my professors prescribing it in our college OPD. So at that time itself, we used to think, what is this? This is a poisonous substance, arsenic, bromide, halogen poisoning. We know that, how it is going to affect you. So even with that, these people are least concerned about the side effects, and they just prescribe it just because it was mentioned in these homeopathic textbooks, or the medicines were labeled homeopathic medicine, there's no side effects. So the reassurance of lack of adverse effects or the lack of side effects is not by scientific evidence. It is by the labels that is being promoted in homeopathy. So that's why we were concerned about that, and we did some of the experiments. We tested some of the drugs here, and we could find even heavy metals, multiple organic and inorganic poisonous substances as chemical components in those medicines, then solvents, and even modern medicine drugs as part of these homeopathic or Ayurvedic drugs. So that was the reality that we were talking about. Yeah.
So because it's not regulated at all by anyone, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
That's it. That's the pitiable situation in our country. If anything is coming under Ayush, you can bypass all these scientific testings. That is.
Yeah. As we saw with Corona Kit.
Yeah.
Before you leave, I have one last question for this time. Okay. So alcohol now is also considered equal to water. As in the conditions that the mother tincture, that the solution which the substance is dissolved in is either
the vehicle. Yeah, the vehicle, we call it. Yeah.
So the vehicle, by that logic, if water has memory, so does alcohol. I'm just looking at it from that perspective. Okay. I know I'm stretching it a bit. but what I wanted to know is the value that the spirit of this medicine, which is claimed to go into the vehicle, how does that then transfer over to these sugar pills or the powder that we get in those little pouches, which are both delicious, by the way? But how is that claimed to work?
Who doesn't like sweet?
We all do, and especially if it's dipped in alcohol.
Even the spirits do.
Oh, I love that.
But the spirits love alcohol more than sweets.
Yeah, who doesn't? I know that from last night. But no, what are these guys? How do they justify that they're putting? Why don't they just give you a little, like a vial of water and say chug that instead?
This is what I said. This is all. Do you know anything about quantum physics? Then I can explain it to you, because this is all based on quantum physics.
Wow. So we have to get in quantum physics. So I definitely want to have you back, because I have a lot more that I want to unpack.
Yeah, we can, because even I will tell you that you can take each and every aspect of homeopathy and you can elaborate it for more than 2-3 hours. I have done it on my channel, but it is in Malayalam. I have talked about this vital force single. It is around 2 hours. So to understand that, it need that much elaboration, because that's something that was a part of that history of those times. Without understanding that, it is very difficult to understand why homeopathy is fully occupied with this vitalism principle and how it is affected by that. Okay. So just like that, there are many other things like that. Mother tinctures, another one. This dilution, another one. Similibus, that is another one. You can elaborate it, each and every one. Yeah.
All right. So we'll call this a trailer.
Yeah. That's it.
And I will have you back as soon as humanly possible, so that we can really get into the weeds and have a full discussion. We can concentrate on one thing at a time, maybe. Definitely. And you can give us as much information as possible. I will turn it into a series of like the mother tincture of homeopathic knowledge.
Okay.
From the modern perspective.
Yeah, that's nice. Right? Yeah. I mean,
awesome. We'll put it in the books. But thank you so much, Arif, for joining me. I've been wanting to tackle homeopathy for a long time.
Okay.
And I'd seen you on YouTube a couple of times. Then I saw you with Dr. Phillips, and I was like, you're in the weeds. You're actually fighting the good fight out in the field and doing the clinical research that is so sorely needed right now. So thank you from the science community. And I'm definitely having you back. This was a great conversation. We've, as I like to call it, touched the snowflake on the top of the iceberg.
Okay. A unique snowflake.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, thank you for joining us. There is going to be a lot more coming from Arif's side. We're going to have him on a few more times to really get into the depths of what homeopathy has been, what it is, where it's wrong, where it might even be right at times, and why people feel that they get cured by it. There's a lot to unpack. So subscribe if you haven't already, and we will be back with even more very soon. And if you like this, and if you want to show this to some family members, which I'm sure you have, who are into homeopathy, send them this video. And until next time, stay rational.